Oh, no. She did everything. It was quiet. Yeah, that's what, yeah.
I don't know. Nobody's ever warned it from the board.
Yeah, it's just.
Because, yeah, I don't know what it would be like either, but I would assume, well, just find out. And had done it. I think it's long as I was on the board. And then Becky.
You put them both in the same thing?
No, I don't know, but I mean, and, until she did.
5 and 6. 5 and 6.
Well, it was easy when the Holy Spirit told me to do so.
It's separate in the book.
Yeah. So anyway, kind of heard last fall. It took me a while to confirm. And, time to move along.
I'm ready to tell you, I'm gonna get the hell out of here. This is not, I guess. See, you gotta remember, they're separate issues. That's a conditional. That's 5 is a conditional zoning request. Conditional rezoning request. 6 is a special exception. Okay, so it's two different.
Could be separate.
Yeah.
So we do one, then we'll do one.
Right.
I did. Over there.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, it's 7 o'clock, the May 15th Board of Supervisors meeting is now in session. If we have a quorum, everything looks good. Would you care to lead us in invocation?
Yes, you will. Let's bow our heads for just a moment. God our Father, we thank you for all your blessings. Thank you for your mercy and your grace. We thank you for another day, Father, and just allowing us to exist on this side of Jordan. We ask that would come and to our midst as we conduct this business of this county, Father, and we ask your blessings on those who have come and those who will participate. Trust that whatever we do will be favorable in your sight and uplifting to your kingdom on this side of Jordan. These blessings we ask in your Son Jesus' name and for his sake. Amen.
Amen. I pledge allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Next, we have the consent agenda. The approval of the board agenda for April. Any comments?
Any amendments?
Mr. Chairman, we've got we knew we would have requests for supplemental appropriations that were going to be approved Monday night. And I don't see the slide on the agenda for it. We were going to take care of it during the school board's report. If you prefer to amend the agenda to put it on there to make it official, that's fine. Otherwise, we can just take care of it when the school board is giving their report.
Which was gentleman?
I also move, Mr. Chairman, to place that on the agenda during the school board section.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Approval of minutes from April. And approval of financial report.
Mr. Chairman, I move for approval of the April 17 regular meeting as well as the April 30th continued meeting.
All in favor, aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. Next, we go to approval of financial reports, treasurer's report, April, accountability balance sheet, revenue reports, expenditure report, and accounts payable list for April. What's your pleasure, John?
Mr. Chairman, I move the approval of the 4 reports as submitted.
All right. All in favor, aye.
Aye.
Opposed? No. Motion carries. Next, we have public comment section. We limit their comments to 3 minutes.
Hello, my name is Stuart Price. I live in the Chula section of Amelia. My background includes managing radioactive and hazardous waste landfills, working with contractors at federal sites, managing overall environmental activities, and conducting stakeholder outreach. As such, I would like to speak out in favor right now of the Maplewood landfill, waste management, and Amelia County. Waste management has defined itself as a good environmental steward. In fact, just today, Waste Management issued a press release touting its commitment titled Climate Action and Leadership. If I may. Waste Management today joins more than 3,700 businesses, investors, governmental agencies, universities, and faith groups in committing to climate action in support of the landmark Paris Agreement. As a signatory of the We Are Still In coalition, Waste Management pledges to do its part to help offset greenhouse gas emissions and stem climate change. Waste Management's support of the We Are Still In aligns with our values and vision for the future, said Jim Fish, President and CEO. We set a high bar for ourselves. Over the next 20 years, we intend for our waste solutions and services to result in overall offset of GHG emissions 4 times greater than generated by our own operations. The people and planet we serve deserve our best efforts and boldest thinking. So we'll continue to step up and be a leader of this important initiative. I have followed waste management for about 20 years now. And as being a leader in the landfill waste management operation, these guys are good. They are a really strong player, both for our country, for our state, and for our Eastern Seaboard. Thank you very much for what Amelia County does at Maplewood. Thank you for your support with waste management. I really appreciate it. Thank you.
Sir. Appreciate that. Anyone else? Any other public comments? One more time, any other public comments? All right, this section is closed. And we are moving on to committees, organizations, reports, and presentations. Mr. Whitaker?
Yes, you have in your board package the monthly VDOT report. You know, they've got their litany of patching and pulling ditches, and they're out cutting now. They're doing the south side area from 360 South at this time. And in a few weeks when they finish up, they'll be getting on the north side for their first cutting of the year. They've got some surface treatment that's going on some of the secondaries. And it looks like they're going to do an asphalt paving on 360. They're going to have some alternating lanes in late May and early June. And the last thing on there, they mentioned the traffic Engineering is evaluating Mr. Scott's questions about the flashing lights. I got an email from Lee McKnight. They've re-looked that whole thing. They checked back into the accident records and stuff, and they find no reason to change what's out there right now. They are going to put together a talking paper and send it to the county. Once I get it, I'll make sure it gets forwarded to y'all, and I'll get the newspaper a copy of it in case they want to use it. It gives the reasoning and the methodology and all that good stuff behind what they're doing. And it's not just the media that's getting it, that's throughout the state that they're doing this type of thing.
Okay.
But I'll try to entertain any questions you have.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes, sir.
Mr. Whitaker, I was wondering if a message, I guess, could go to VDOT concerning the implementation of, say, a sign or a signal or something like that, if we could get it earlier, and that I think would help. If we could get these talking points, talking papers before instead of 3 months after, that would, I think, help a lot. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Right.
Very good. Any other questions or comments?
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
I'd like to ask Mr. Whitaker, didn't I think I've asked this question and been told at least twice, but I haven't seen any action. But Mr. McKnight at the last month's meeting did say that 609 was going to be paved
It's
From-
this season.
This season.
this year. Okay.
Well, this cycle. So hopefully it'll be this year, which we put it before July, but I haven't seen.
Okay, okay, and I realize that the fiscal year ends June 30th and starts July 1st. So many people want this done that they just can't wait to see somebody start working on it. Okay, just wanted to reiterate that. Thank you.
All right. Next, we have Amelia County School Board. The county school board will give an update on the school project. Dr. Harper?
Good evening, Mr. Chair, members of the Board of Supervisors. The school year is quickly coming to a close with graduation this Saturday, so we hope you will be joining us at the high school. According to the most recent number from the high school, we have 143 seniors graduating this year. It's a nice, large class. You have two documents before you. The first is a request for a change to an appropriation. Due to an increase in ADM above the state projection used for creation of this year's budget, we are requesting a change to appropriation, adding $62,895 to this year's budget to reflect the additional funding we will receive from the state. We currently need funds in our bus replacement line to make needed repairs to bus seats to be compliant with requirements to address and also with requirements to address a recent breakdown of one of our buses. Unfortunately, last week, one of our buses blew a head gasket and the engine block is cracked. Mm-hmm. And for those of you who know a little bit about the engine, it's shot. So we have obtained estimates to replace the engine and the deteriorated floor in that particular prototype bus. However, we believe we may be able to purchase used buses of a similar age for less than the cost of repairing this particular 12-year-old bus. So our plan is to put that $62,895 in the bus replacement line for this year. The second item that you have before you is the Virginia Public School Authority, or VPSA grant. And this grant is awarded annually to school divisions of Virginia to support placement of technology in schools. In the current year's budget, we've accounted for only 1 year's VPSA funds plus the required local match of $25,600. We had VPSA funds remaining from 2017-18 year for which carryover had not yet been requested. So at the present time, we need to request carryover of these funds so that last year's funds and this year's funds can be expended without going over budget in the VPSA line. And we will be using those funds to purchase additional Chromebooks for our student use and would like to go ahead and do so so that our technology department can work on getting those ready for the new school year. So if you'd like me to stop at this point so that you can address those two requests, I'll be glad to.
Mr. Chairman, I'll make a motion that we approve these two requests as presented.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Yes, ma'am. That's carried.
Thank you. This month, I have with me Dr. Cindy Reesner, who will provide an instructional update, and Ms. Carly Bullock, Finance Manager, who will share information on the summer feeding program. On April 1st, we welcome Ms. Bullock to her new position, and we will begin with Dr. Reesner.
Thank you, Doctor.
Hello, good evening. We just wanted to inform you that summer school will be starting soon. I know we're not even finished with this school year, but we're already starting thinking about summer school. Session 1 will take place from June 4th through June 27th, and Session 2, July 8th through July 31st. Session 1, elementary, middle, and high school students will participate, and Session 2, just high school students. This year, all instruction across the division will take place at Amelia County Elementary School as a cost-saving measure related to our summer feeding program, which Ms. Bullock will explain when she comes up. The elementary schools program supports academic remediation in the areas of language arts, reading and writing, and math for students in kindergarten through 4th grade. Academic readiness support is based on the student Brigance scores, the kindergarten readiness assessment that we give in entering kindergartners on registration day for students in pre-K. And we will also include summer reading incentives within our elementary school program to help prevent the summer slide. For middle school, instructional enrichment will support, again, reading and math with growth evidence by the use of pre and post assessments. And student eligibility for middle school summer school is based on student performance on SOL assessments, final grades in English and math, and student attendance. The responses are due back to the middle school by June 3rd. High school summer school will take place, as I said, both June and July. They have the second session in July for algebra readiness. The summer school program is designed to help prepare students for success in retaking their end-of-course SOL assessments for verified credit that are graduation requirements. And those will be, instruction will take place in English, math, Algebra 1, Geometry, and World Studies 1. As I said, the focus for the high school program is successfully passing the end-of-course required SOL test, as well as improving their test-taking skills and knowledge of these concepts. Okay, in addition to our summer school program, I also wanted to inform you that we do have several openings for employment within our school division at this present time. We have openings for the Director of Pupil Personnel and Federal Programs, High School Principal, Athletic Trainer. That is a new position. This will be a full-time athletic trainer at the high school. We envision the athletic trainer providing some instruction within his or her area of certification, starting a student-led athletic training program, and participating and supporting all areas of the high school instructional program as needed and as appropriate, as well as providing that on-site athletic training for injured athletes, as well as coverage for all home games for both visiting teams and Amelia High School. We also have openings for a high school biology teacher, high school special ed teacher, elementary school secretary, and elementary school pre-K teacher and pre-K paraprofessional. We are adding an additional pre-K class at the elementary level, and so therefore we have openings for those two positions. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Next.
Hey, good evening. For many of our students, summertime means food, friends, and fun. However, for other families, the summer months can be stressful with food budgets stretched pretty thin. Amelia County Public Schools will be participating in the free summer feeding program funded by the USDA. Our site will be located at the elementary school this year. The free summer meal program begins Tuesday, June 4th, and will end July 27th, Thursday, July 27th. Breakfast and lunch will be served to children 18 and younger, Monday through Thursday. Breakfast will be served from 8:30 a.m. to 9 a.m., and lunch will be served between 12:30 p.m. and 1 p.m. in the cafeteria at the elementary school. There's no proof of income needed. This is an income-based program. The only caveat is that the meals have to be consumed on site. This year, we will continue to participate with other safe, closed sites within the county so we can better serve our students. On May 9th, I went to training at DOE to learn a little bit more about the summer feeding program. And we learned that because the schools have to be open sites to the public, we believe that it's a fiscally smart decision to only have one cafeteria open this summer so that we can get reimbursed for all meals and to reduce some of our overhead costs. So, thank you.
Thank you. Thank you all. Next, we have Department of Planning and Zoning, public hearing on conditional zoning, Mr. Sean Wyatt, from RR to RR3 to B1. We'll at this point open the public hearing for this. Anyone have anything to say?
Mr. Chairman, should we inquire of our zoning administrator, David Whitaker, a little bit on that?
That'll work.
Mr. Wyatt met with the Planning Commission last month. We went over his, the entirety of his proposals. And that proposal in a nutshell is he would like to rezone a portion of his 3.2 acre parcel to be one to operate a automotive repair facility. The garage is already in place. It was built as a private garage originally about 7 years ago. He had a business of running around and doing appraisals on folks' cars, and he was working out of the shop in Powhatan. That sort of morphed itself into a local business. He wants to get in compliance with the ordinances and all. No one spoke during the planning commission, beyond the planning commission members and all. And the planning commission voted 8-0 with one abstention to recommend approval of this thing. One of the conditions that Mr. Wyatt has proposed is if this business ceases to operate or he closes or he gets so big he has to move somewhere else, this zoning will revert from the B1 if approved back to the RR3. So it would be a continuation or a sale of it. It would be him or no one. Okay. And Mr. Wyatt obviously is here. He and I are ready to answer any questions you may have on this. Let's see where we go.
Jim?
Mr. Chairman, the application seems to be in order, and seeing that the planning commission has recommended rezoning, I'd make a motion.
Public hearing.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, this is, sorry, I was ready to act on it. See, no problem.
At this point, we'll go back to the public hearing.
Sorry about that.
Ms. White, she has anything?
Ms. Wyatt, it's your chance to say anything if you'd like.
There again, I started as a part-time business adventure, and it's morphed into full-time. It's kind of the American dream, entrepreneurial dream that I couldn't ask for anything better. And I'd love to go ahead and make it official. Maybe where I'm at for now, I think financially that's the best choice, and be able to continue to help the people in the county.
All right. Thank you, sir. You have anything else?
No, sir.
All right. Gentlemen, what's your pleasure on it?
Anybody else?
Anybody else like to speak? Well,
Okay. So go ahead and close the public hearing then.
yeah. We'll close the public hearing at this point and go back to the board. You can have a seat, sir.
I guess I'll just restate my, my motion that the request be granted.
We have a motion, and
All right. So this part, this motion is to take it from the RR3 to the B1.
yes.
And then we'll have our other public hearing.
Right.
Okay.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. Next, we'll go to the second part of this motion, the public hearing for special exemption permit. During the regular meeting of April 22nd, 2019, the Planning Commission voted to recommend approval of the special exemption permit to operate an automotive repair facility on a small portion of this acreage on the tax map, parcel 41-3E. Anyone care to comment? We'll open the public. Let's try Mr. Whitaker first. You have anything on this one?
You pretty much covered it. For him to be able to operate this particular endeavor, he does need a special exceptions permit in this new zoning district. And the conditions of the permit is all the business activities will be confined to the portion of the property that was rezoned, which is fairly small. And the other one that's in there is no junk, no parts car, no carcass vehicles will be allowed on the property. So once it's wrecked and they fixed it, the parts that are no longer usable have to leave. Or if he has to bring in a vehicle to get parts from, they'll be in the shop while he's doing it, and that parts car will go away. It's not allowed to stay there. And that's pretty much where we are on that.
All right. Anyone else on the public comment part? You have anything to say for or against it? All right. At this point, we'll close the public meeting and come back to the board. Gentlemen, what's your pleasure?
Move to approve, Mr. Chairman.
All right. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Like sign. Motion carries. Congratulations, sir. Next, we have alternative energy amendment to the zoning ordinance. The county of Amelia is considering the amendment to the zoning ordinance for alternative energy.
Mr. Whitaker.
Over the past few months, we've had numerous inquiries. Actually, it's been over the last 18 months. Numerous inquiries about the possibility of coming into Amelia County for some solar farms. We don't have any guidance. We don't have any in the zoning ordinance that would allow or say no to this operation. And what I'm looking for is some guidance from the Board of Supervisors to direct staff to pursue making an amendment to the county zoning ordinance to address solar and on small scale wind energy generating facilities. We don't want to be stuck where the state passes some rules in front of us and we're stuck with that. We get no choice in the matter. This is an opportunity for us to answer the questions to the folks that are wanting to do this. And I would ask that y'all tell me to get with the planning commission and put something together so we can regulate these two energy generating sources coming in here.
Gentlemen, any comments?
Yes, Mr. Chairman. I would absolutely suggest that we have staff move forward with whatever planning necessary, trying to find the model ordinance. Of course, I guess no matter what, once we get something in place, if the state comes around or the feds come around and tell us what we're going to do, we're going to do that. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
All right, so the motion would be,
I was just making a comment right there.
anything?
I would think that this is not we don't have to reinvent the wheel. There's some folk who are already doing this, and
There's some very good ordinances from
that's
some of
right.
our surrounding counties. They have gone through and taken the backside whipping on some of this stuff, and they've highlighted it as their ordinances. Mr. Gore is very attuned to what's going on in the General Assembly. He's gonna keep us straight on that, so we don't box ourselves in and create a situation that we can't get out of. One of the benefits, or one of the things with the folks that have come to us, they're not looking at monster scale solar farms. I think we'd like to stay away from that. We'll make those rules probably pretty tough. But they're looking at some intermediate size things that I think will be very acceptable to Amelia County. But we also need to address the one-offs. The people want to put solar panels up to work their houses and stuff. That's not really an issue. We've done quite a few of those under the building code rules.
Right.
But we'll address that, yeah, if you're gonna do a one-off and supply for your own home or your dairy barn or what have you, that this is the way you would go about doing that. Haven't had a lot of activity on wind generation in the last year or so, but a few years ago, that was a big hobby item. Most folks realize fairly quickly that it's a $7,000 to $8,000 hobby that doesn't really pay off very well because we don't have a whole lot of big winds in Amelia County. But we need to cover all that.
All right. Any comments? Questions?
Do you have your marching orders, or do you need
Yes, sir.
anything else from us?
We will move forward.
Okay.
Engage,
Do we need a motion?
Have a motion?
I guess we had consensus, so.
Okay, all right.
Have a motion?
You don't need it.
Okay.
Consensus is that they'll go ahead and move forward.
Move on, sir.
All right.
Next, we have all business, committee appointments. The following appointments will need to be reworked. Workforce Development Board, Amelia Day Committee, John Tyler Community College. Anyone have any?
Mr. Chairman, the staff doesn't have any. We're working on all of them. Amelia Day. I'm actually surprised that we only have 4 able-bodied folks who want to get out there and work to put on as good a program as what we had out there last Saturday. They need help, and we'd encourage folks that are looking for something to do to step up. It's not that great of a time commitment overall. It's very intense leading up to the event, but we're looking for volunteers.
All right, so thank you.
Mr. Chairman, on the Workforce Development Board, first, Don Garrett has agreed to serve another year, and Deborah Crowder has approved that. So I think we should appoint him for that. And on the Amelia Day Committee, I had somebody approach me. He's not from my district. He's from Mr. Whitaker's district, but his name is Greg Faulkner, and he has spoken with Becky Morris, and he really wants to do it. So he's stepping up. So we should probably appoint him too.
Is that a motion? Make motions.
I make a motion, we appoint Don Garrett for the Workforce Development Board and Greg Faulkner from District 3 for the Amelia Day Committee.
All right. Mr. Pleasure, gentlemen. All approved? Say aye.
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 Disapprove? Say like so. Motion carried.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
on the John Tyler Community College Board, since nobody's stepping up, I'd like to fill that spot if it's okay.
Have we got anybody that's in?
I've asked a retired teacher that everybody here knows, and she asked me when we needed to know by, and I said by the next meeting. She's retired, she's traveling a lot, so I have not heard yes or no from her. If we want to expand our base, we could wait. I don't care. I just want everybody to know that we have made some inquiries there.
Could you hold off? to-
Yeah, the deadline, I mean, Becky's still on till June 30, so I just don't want it to go empty.
We won't.
Okay.
All right. Any further questions or comments on the situation?
No, Mr. Chairman, I had intended to fill the vacancy on District 4 on Amelia Day, but that person hadn't made his mind up yet, but hope I'll have that done by next month.
All right, very good. All right, next let's go to donation of surplus fire truck to Midway.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, Midway Volunteer Fire Department's a small rural department on 58 down between Clarksville and South Boston. In April of 2018, they wrecked and totaled their 2008 Pierce fire truck responding to a fire. And they didn't have anything at that point in time to haul any water or do anything with. The folks at Pierce knew that Amelia County had 2 tankers that were in surplus that we hadn't done anything with. So they called and asked if they could borrow one. And certainly we sent one down there. They've kept it for a year. They've actually had to do some work to it because it had pump issues when it went down there. Just recently, they've gotten their brand new truck, their brand new replacement truck. And they called back up and said that they were, they were done with it. They appreciated the opportunity to have it to cover everybody. And because we figured the value is minimal based on what we have had response for before when we go to sell these things, and because we've already got a second surplus one up here, we would like to do like we did for the folks at Pamplin. We would recommend that we go ahead and make a donation of that truck to stay down at the Midway Volunteer Fire Department. And they were extremely excited with the thought that that might happen. So staff's recommendation, and it's gone through the Public Works as well as my end. The recommendation is to make a donation.
Mr. Chairman, I'll make that donation. I'll make that motion to donate that tanker truck to Midway.
Very good. All right. All in favor of the motion? Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Disapproved? Motion carried. Next, CIP project acceleration. Mr. Roger Scott has requested discussion on using waste management's host fee funds to accelerate projects included in the CIP.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, everybody else, as you know, we will be receiving about $150,000 per month from Waste Management for tipping fees. This month was 134, not quite 150. But I asked this agenda item to be put on so that we could begin the discussions of what we can do with this money rather than just adding it to what Mr. Carol Barnard calls Sunday money. We have enough money in the bank to be healthy as a county. Only 2 months of this money would replenish what we took out of the general fund to meet our budget for this year. And I think we should use some of this money to accelerate currently approved projects and also pull in some possibly from 2021 into 2020. Only 4 months of this money would pay for everything that we've approved for the 2020 CIP fund budget. So often I hear people say they don't submit things for approval because we don't have money and we're not going to be approved anyway, so why bother? So I'm suggesting that we open up CIP discussions again with all departments and possibly even the public through a town hall meeting where we can get ideas from the public of what they would like to see done with this money. It's a windfall, and I think there's lots of good things that could be done for Amelia with this money. I'm not presuming that I know what the answers are. I have my own ideas of things I'd like to see on the list, but I really think this is money that's for the public, and the public should have a say in what happens to it. So I'm just throwing it out to you guys. Maybe we could discuss it tonight or have a work session on it some other day, but I think we need to begin the discussion.
I think a work session would be more.
Yeah, I think, Mr. Chairman, I think that we have the CIP already in place that we've approved, and there's, so there's a head start on some projects that could be taken into consideration. But it's certainly worth that, I think, in support of what you're saying there, that we do take a look at that possibility and put a process in place that allows us to do that.
Mr. Chairman, I'm talking about even things like this year's currently approved budget for CIP. We're 10 months into the year, and there's several things on that list that haven't even begun yet.
That's what I was thinking, revisiting that.
Yes, and if we don't have the manpower to do it, maybe we could look at bringing in outside contractors to do it, or whatever it takes to get these things done more quickly.
What specifically are you talking about?
I don't really want to get into specifics, but there's a list of about 10 items in the current year, and I think there's at least 3 that are not even started yet. Or they're in the planning process, like the sheriff's wall, for one. He's been waiting for that for years.
They're doing that now.
I know it's in the process, but
No, they're doing it now.
they've actually started cutting wood.
They
Okay.
actually started cutting. Talked to the sheriff this morning.
All right, great.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes,
you got the CIP committee and that's in place that you,
We do with the planning commission.
that's what I'm saying.
There's a process in place
Right, that's what I-
that opens up in August and runs through about January to make this happen.
okay,
This acceleration and all this. The numbers that are there now were based on the numbers that we were bringing in 9 or 10 months ago when it was a sophisticated guess.
Yep.
It was a sophisticated guess on what that flow would be. And that's how we get to where we are.
okay,
For the next cycle, like I said, I'll send the letters out in August. It will be based on the numbers that we're bringing in now as we're going to project through the next year. And again, that process is in place and it starts 2 months from now. I'm not real sure jumping into this thing right now.
okay.
When money's appropriated for next year, just having been approved, there would be supplemental appropriations, which aren't huge, but it is a process to do that. I'm not sure
I'm not,
moving out of a cycle that's already in place that seems to work fairly well. And I'm not cutting you short. I'm looking at it from the, geez, another thing on my plate type situation.
no, and Mr. Chairman, I'm not suggesting we change that process. What I'm suggesting is we get more input from more people. I look through this CIP project, and almost everything in there there's 3 categories: urgent, necessary, and desirable. And only thing that ever really makes it in there is urgent. I think it's time we start doing some things in the county that are not urgent.
When that is presented to the Board of Supervisors, they have the opportunity to use that as a planning tool. And those are the guidelines for the people submitting projects.
I know.
And I've sat down and explained to folks that if you don't put urgent on it, you're probably not going to get it. And lo and behold, they don't put urgent on it. So, and there's guidelines on what this money can be used for also.
Mm-hmm.
You can't use it to replace a school bus. You can't replace a police car or something like that. You can't do minor maintenance supposedly on buildings and stuff. It has to be major.
Capital improvements, yeah.
We could buy an additional bus as a new requirement, or an additional fire truck, or an additional police car as a
new requirement,
But
okay.
from that point on, it should roll into the operational budgets for whoever's getting the money to maintain that requirement once it's in place.
Right.
And, some of these projects are purely maintenance that have been approved over the years. So here's the guidelines, and it gets worked around, of course. And again, y'all have the bottom line authority about this stuff. And the planning commission, the committee from that group, they also look beyond those needs and stuff sometimes, because they recommend some of those maintenance projects to you.
Mr. Chairman,
yes, sir.
it's not like we're not spending some CIP money on a yearly basis. This year, we had less income in the past year from the landfill. We still spent $863,000 or $873,000 from CIP. Across the last 7 years, I would, going by memory now, but I suspect we spent over $7 million from the CIP on these projects. This is an orderly plan. It's put together for each department could come in, department head of each department would come in and to talk to the committee and David with their wish list, is what we call it. And the cliche is no use to turn it in because they're not going to get it. I think it's probably over exaggerated. If he gets to us and gets to this committee and has a viability, I think we've been awfully lenient on how we've given the money, the county's taxpayers' money. Of course, I wasn't raised with a golden horseshoe in my mouth, so I don't make any decisions based on that concept. But we have a golden cow up here, I guess you might call it, in that landfill. That landfill has done a lot for us, but it has its bad days, has its bad years. And across the way, since 1990 or 91 or something, that landfill has been the crux of the county having a lot and having cheap taxes and so forth. So I'm not a spendthrift. I think we got a plan. We need to stick to it. And this fall, I know Mr. Harvey used such a figure on this, because our intake has picked up quite a bit on a monthly basis. I'm sure we'll go back from $600,000 as it was the year before, probably back to $1 million. If it runs like it usually does, I'm sure we'll be back to our CIP funding of around $1 million. So, see, we dropped from 1.2 million, Mr. Whitaker, down to 600,000, back to 800, and I'm sure we hit it back to $1 million. $1 million a year of CIP money, and then your budget on top of that, that's a lot for a small county. And I say, save money where you can, spend money, and the plan we have, which is well organized, and don't get too happy with just because you got a little bit in front of you real quick. So I suggest we leave things alone, Mr. Chairman. I'll leave things as they are.
One of Mr. Scott's comments is correct, because, we get projects out there that do overload our capability to do.
Yep.
And that's a higher pay grade for
Right.
mine as to who's going to direct and make those kind of things happen. And that's very viable. And that is part of the reason some of the projects stack the way they do. Some of them seem to move. It's just because our maintenance folks cannot get to them at that point in time. So it's the inputs from the public, though, if we get to that point, I think we need to get them flowed through you guys back to us.
Yes.
Because if not,
Yeah.
I'm gonna have to sign a paper
I
on
got you.
this, that, and that thing will go from a 50 or 60 project thing to a 300 or 400 project, trying to weed and go through that. But, need good estimates when they come in.
Yep.
Well, since we've got this, I'm sorry, Mr. Chairman. Since we've got that process already in place, then it's like you said, you could be, say about around August, activate, for example, that portion of your plan and say, all right, here are some projects that, for example, that might qualify to do some of the things that we're talking about here, right?
I think we could. I think we just broaden the pool of who I send the application, the initial thing out to.
Exactly right.
Send each of y'all a copy of that too. Say,
Right.
The door's up, the window is open.
The window's open, that's exactly right.
Request back with the proper documentation to support it,
Right.
and that type of stuff.
Right.
It gets to be a tedious process, because you've got to rack and stack, and what's there, you've got to move around, and it's not good. And then we present it to the planning commission with 11 folks putting in input. Then we take it to a smaller committee with 5 or 6, and we meet with folks, trying to read here and move there. And if folks feel they're not going to get something because, well, there's just never money and this isn't a viable project, that's unfortunate that money sits there. But if they meet the criteria that's outlined and they meet the dollar values, we don't need a bunch of $3,000 projects. You folks have the opportunity and the wherewithal to push $3,000 there or $4,000 there. That's why there's a minimum requirement of at least 15,000 to qualify.
To qualify, right, okay.
So,
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to add something to what Ms. Whitaker is saying. We've had some major projects. One was broadband. Broadband was taking 250 in 1 year, $500,000 from our CIP money. And so if we had an appropriation of 1 million and 250,000 1 year, and I think 500,000 another year, it went straight to broadband to get our $1.3 million ahead to partner with the broadband project. See, that major project is now fulfilled. I'm not so sure it's going to take some additional money, right, Mr. Harvey?
I'm sure it is.
That's right. And so, but maybe it won't be at the $250,000 clip. See, that'll loosen up some money that for smaller projects. And so, we've been basically averaging $1 million a year out of CIP. So that's a lot of money. And based on the budget that we passed this year, which is the biggest we've ever passed, it's almost scary. So anyway.
Anyone else?
I don't have anything further.
I would like to, this to me, the windfall, so to speak, of this money coming in. I had the same thoughts you did. But in doing what we want to do, I want to accelerate those projects also. And there's a way, we just got to think about it a little bit. But this acceleration of money, to me, is like being a rock star. You grow your long hair, you get your guitar, and you start playing, and all of a sudden, the record deal goes away. You got to cut your hair. So if we watch this thing, this is contractual. So if we watch this thing.
It's a 10-year contract.
Yeah, well, it's a 10-year contract, but anything can happen to it. And if it does, it can get better or it can get worse. And I'd like to hold it off maybe until August, let it build a little bit more. Then you've got something to shoot with if you do it.
Yep, I'm okay with that. What the thing for me is what's missing in this whole process is public input. There are a lot of people out there that have a lot of ideas of what they'd like to see in Amelia, and the Planning Commission may not know what they are. We may not know what they are, and I think we need to listen to people. I think we need to advertise it and have a town hall or some kind of public forum where we can get people to come in with well thought out ideas, not just off the handle, but I'd like to see that happen.
Invite them to the Planning Commission. Let them give them, it's 11 on the second round. All right, anyone else? Next, we go to the County Administrator's Report, Waste Management. The host fee of Waste Management for the month of April was $134,083.93. Mr. Taylor?
Yes, sir. This uptick is based on a contract, which is, actually, it's not new waste to Waste Management. They've just diverted some from Sussex to Amelia. Obviously, we're glad to have it. I understand that they've done better this month than they did last month, so we'll have to see how that ends up. The Southside Virginia Community College newsletter is there, tab number 9. It's obviously the monthly newsletter that you get each time. The CRC has got their items of interest included. If there's anything that anybody sees on there that they would like pulled for discussion, we'd be glad to do that. We'd also be glad to get CRC staffers to come down here to address anything that anybody might see on there and would like to hear a little more detail about. The DMV Select compensation statement for the month is included, and it was $4,169. What I will point out is the net amount collected for March was $92,530. We've been on the uptick ever since we got started. This right here would put us over $1 million for the year with months like this. This would put us about where Holman Motor Company was before they announced that they were closing. The Friends of the James L. Hamner Public Library newsletter is included in your board book under tab number 12. If there are any questions, be glad to answer those. And on the board letter, the next item would be the broadband update. And for that, I'd like to turn it over to Mr. Gore. He's going to update us on the broadband program that we're in with Dinwiddie County.
To get you all up to speed on May 7th, the counties come up here.
Got a lot of old people up here.
Good evening. On May 7th, Dinwiddie and Amelia reissued the solicitation for a private partner in the Tobacco Commission broadband project. Just to give you a feel for the timeline, on Monday, this coming Monday, May 20th at 2 p.m. in Dinwiddie, there's going to be a mandatory pre-proposal conference. The RFP was sent directly to 50 plus vendors, wireless internet providers and wireless infrastructure companies that we obtained from a national association list. So everyone who got it last time, plus additional firms, received it directly. There was an advertisement in the Times-Dispatch. It's posted on the state procurement website as well as both counties' websites. So Monday, we'll get a good feel for interest on Monday, see who shows up for the pre-bid conference. Sort of moving forward in the process, there will be public hearings that are required under the section of procurement law we're going under. I can explain that in a second, but the schedule has a June 19th public hearing scheduled for you all. The day before, Dinwiddie will do it at their regular meeting, and that will be to have a public hearing on all the proposals that are received. We're going this time under the a Public-Private Infrastructure Procurement Act. PPEA is the acronym, which is different from the regular Procurement Act. The reason this was done this time is because the PPEA gives you a little more latitude, and it's really geared towards a public-private partnership. That's why this law was put in place. It allows you to more directly finance private ventures, whereas through grant money, whereas under the traditional procurement, we would have had to pull in the IDA and the Dinwiddie EDA and have to involve them as a contractual party. Anyway, that's one thing that PPEA does. It's very clear that you all have the ability to directly finance this venture. Again, it's a matching grant with local and Tobacco Commission money. The other advantage of the PPEA is it makes it very clear that any firm that's going to do this project has to do all phases of it. In other words, it's not just a construction project. It's not just a design project. It's not just a operations project. It's everything. It's going to be, they need to design it. They need to construct it. They need to operate it. So it's very clear. I think it's a little more clear than we had in the prior solicitation. But anyway, that process is a little different from traditional procurement. It requires more public hearings. So June 19th, and then prior to that public hearing, we're required to post all proposals that are received. So as soon as we get them, the deadline is June 11th. So on June 11th at 2 p.m., that's the submission deadline. Sure, the next day we will post the proposals that are received on the two counties' websites. Any proprietary information would be redacted, but otherwise they'll be available to the public. Then the following week, there will be a public hearing where public can comment on those proposals. Then after all that's happened, interviews will take place. So then you all, staff, did the same thing on the Dinwiddie side. We'll sort of sift through the comments, sift through the proposals, and select the top 1, 2, or 3 depending on how it shakes out, to conduct interviews. So the schedule calls for interviews to be conducted June 20th and 21st. And then through the rest of June and July and early August gives us the time to negotiate and finalize the agreement. So the schedule is looking like the goal would be, the target date would be your regular meeting in August to officially award the contract. So that's sort of the schedule. That's all laid out on your website. It's in the RFP. It's in one of the early pages, so you can go there and read the rest of the RFP if you'd like, but the schedule is laid out on a table on your website. One substantive change from the prior solicitation we issued. We've been working closely with the Tobacco Commission. They're aware that we've done this second solicitation, and they're fine with that. And one thing they did recommend was to increase the minimum coverage requirements for the provider to meet from 90% of unserved areas or underserved areas in the county to 95%. The Tobacco Commission is going to be issuing another round of grant money going forward. They're going to, for new recipients, localities that are awarded grants, they're upping that threshold to 95%. And they wanted us to go ahead and do that with our project. So it will be more comprehensive coverage than we were asking for before. We've made it very clear in the solicitation. Here's the project budget, here's the project timeline, and we're expecting firms to be able to meet the budget and meet the time frame for completion. Just for your information, for the public's information, the FCC's, Federal Communications Commission, definition of broadband is a minimum of 25 megabits per second download and 3 megabits per second upload. So I believe that's the minimum threshold that's in the RFP. However, certainly we would hope for, greater speeds than that. But so that's the gist of it. That's the timeline. We've been working closely with our partner in this, Dinwiddie County. We've been working with the Tobacco Commission to make sure they're abreast of all of this. So it looks like things are back on track. We're hoping to, by the end of the summer, have a provider in place, and by late summer or early fall, moving forward on the project. So, any questions?
Joe, any questions?
Hope it works.
Thank
Hope
you.
it works.
Mr. Chairman, do we have anything more on the Reconnect program? Are we going to be able to get any funding from
The
USDA?
CRC is working on that right now. And Tim Fole, I guess his name is, from
Tim
the
Fole.
Tobacco Commission.
That's right.
And somebody from the governor's office was supposed to participate in a conference call tomorrow. Mr. Fole has bowed out. I'm supposed to be available at 10:30 in the morning for a conference call on this. And this is just to see if we're going to be eligible for anything. Obviously, if we are, the first call we'll make will be to our friends in Dinwiddie to make sure that, make certain that they're in on it as well.
No questions, comments?
Okay, next item.
Excuse me, before we go on to the next item, I didn't have the question in mind right away with the DMV, but you mentioned that collections are $1 million already?
No, sir. What I thought I was saying was if you look at the collections for the month of March, it was $92,000. $92,530 was deposited in March,
Right.
and 12 times that would put us over $1
Oh,
million.
so you're saying we're on a rate to get to $1 million?
Well, that's the
Right.
only thing we've got to judge, so.
Because it says right here, gross so far is only 323,000 for
That's-
4 months.
That's right.
Okay.
All right, Mr. Joe.
Okay. All right, the next item is an update on the water tower cleaning. And I've gotten this from Randy Jones today. B&B is going to receive somebody's texting me and they have blocked my view. That's my computer up there. Okay, here we go. It's off. B&B will receive the bids this Friday. They think they're only going to get just one, and that's because they've only had one request for materials. Once the bids are received, they're going to compare them to the project budget and make a recommendation. B&B will submit the award letter to the county to make the award and proceed into a contract. The bidders will provide the foundation detail requirements for the county to contract the services to install a sand foundation that's going to be on the field below the Hindle Building. The bidder will provide detail of the tank for the county to get Southern Corrosion to price the disinfection that's going to be necessary. The county will also contract the service of their SCADA contractor to provide a cost to rework the RTU from the elevated tank to the temporary ground tank. The bidder will provide B&B information on the electrical equipment to complete the load letter for the power company to provide temporary power to the transfer site at the county's cost. Obviously, there's going to be a fairly sizable pump that's going to be required on that temporary tank. Once everything is in place, the bidder will move onto the site until the elevated tank is placed back into service. They're going to try to use as much of the water left in the temporary tank as they can to fill the elevated tank. And then the SCADA, all caps, will then be returned to normal operation, maybe with possible equipment upgrade. In addition to that information, Darrell Goff pointed out that we're flushing hydrants next week. And we're flushing the hydrants in an attempt to get as much the solids out of the system as possible, because anytime you shake the system up, those end up in homes and businesses. We might have to do that again before the main tank is put back into service. And that is the update on the water tower cleaning.
So, Mr. Chairman, I'm not hearing a lot of dates. Is this going to be done during the time school's closed?
It's got to be.
But is it going to be?
That's the plan.
All right. Well, Charlie, you going to continue on?
Yes, sir. Item number 13 is a letter that we got from Amelia County resident who lives on a private road, and folks who've been around for a while will recognize the name, Paul Johnson. You have to go a couple miles down into Nottoway County, get on a VDOT highway, and then you can turn off onto a private road subdivision that he lives at the very end of. And they are trying to get their private road taken over by VDOT and Nottoway County. And he's made a run at us before for us to go ahead and pave it for him. So he sent a letter with his latest request, and we have put it in your board packet for you to consider.
This is a private driveway.
It's a private road subdivision, yes, sir.
Does not front on any road in Amelia County.
That is correct.
Okay. All right. Did you have a recommendation?
Well, I'm not so sure that we want to spend Amelia County taxpayer money paving roads that are in other counties. So I think as a staff, we've kicked around a little bit. I think if they can ever get Nottoway and VDOT to pave up to the Amelia County line, certainly that would be the time that we would want to go back and consider if we should carry it the rest of the way.
All right. Questions or comments, gentlemen?
Mr. Chairman, I'll just ask Mr. Harvey this, but would it help if we sent a letter of recommendation to Nottoway County and tell them that we are at least have a knowledge that there is a request in the pipeline, and if they can ever get it to our line, we may can do something. But anyway,
Well, you might get one back the other way because the folks down on Benchmark Trail live in Nottaway.
That's
And they
right.
have to go off of 615
615.
on a private road subdivision to get down to where they are. So they might be asking you to show how it's done first.
And I'm sure that, when these little subdivisions were put in all around, that this is the after product of it. It's really, I'm really sorry for it, but I don't know where in the world I don't know how we can get involved, to be honest with you, unless we just can start a paper trail with the VDOT. Maybe it'll help some.
Well, yeah, with Nottaway getting a copy of this correspondence. Please let them know what action.
I will. I certainly will.
That's,
Okay?
that's the reason, I go back a long ways, and a lot of people here go back that long also. 1971, Mr. Harvey, when you remember, you was around, you still remember that, when the county was zoned, a lot of people didn't want it zoned. They didn't understand zoning. But zoning has probably saved us from a terrific turmoil across the entire county. Zoning has, at least, Mr. Whitaker, with your help and people before you, put us into some compliance with an orderly fashion of growth. And so some of this stuff like this slipped through the pipeline with private investors and all, and I'm just so sorry for it, but I had nothing to do with it, but I understand it. I was raised on a terrible road, and anyway, and it was all private, but anyway. And I walked the school bus with mud on my shoes and came home, got them cleaned up at school, went home when I had mud on my shoes when I got back home. So anyway, had a chain in the tractor halfway out to pull the car out, to go to church on Sunday morning. So anyway, I know a little bit about bad roads. All right.
Okay, and the last item here is item number 14, Green Ridge Recycling. That is the landfill, I guess it's county waste, that has been approved by Cumberland County and permitted. Actually, it's within 500 feet of the Powhatan County line. That's why they've been pretty vocal about it. But apparently they have to offer us space because we're a neighboring community. So if we want to reserve any space in their landfill, we need to let them know, and they'll sell it to us at their commercial rate. I think the letter says if we don't respond in 60 days, they'll take that as a no. That's what we were planning on doing.
Sounds good.
Very good.
Sounds good to me.
And Mr. Chairman, that's all that we have.
Questions, comments, John? Anybody?
District 1.
Oh, just one.
No, just ask by district.
Only thing I have, Mr. Whitaker, is some of our roads in District 1 around the river. We need to get the highway department up there. I've had them up there. They've looked, every time it rains, they're dirt roads, and that end of the county get tremendously bad. One of our ladies blew a tire, it struck a hole up there the other day. And believe me, you didn't want to talk to her. She was fit to be tied. So I can take care of that. I know that's on your back, but I can talk to Mr. Rock. District 2.
I don't have any comments.
3.
I don't have anything additional, thank you.
Sir.
District 4.
Yes, sir.
Mr. Whitaker, I'd like to address this to you. I've had several complaints, and the reason that I bring it up tonight, well, I've been getting these complaints, but today in the news, it showed a motorcycle that had wrecked on people's grass thrown into the highway, and the motorcyclist was badly injured. We have a lot of that, and I know people are trying to keep the place looking nice and then mowing the shoulder of the highway and all, but you can turn that mower around and go and back throw it. But when you throw it into the highway, you really cause a safety issue, and maybe not so much for four-wheel vehicles, but for motorcycles, and this is the season for motorcycles. And I don't know, would it help, would you consider calling, Mr. McKnight and reporting this to VDOT and, or is this a sheriff's office? Who handles this?
I'm not real sure, but I would think it would be a sheriff's office.
Well, it's,
It's in the road.
Mr. Harvey, can we get a letter to the sheriff's department or something and make them alert of this? I don't know how to handle it except ask somebody how to handle it.
We'll do some research and see who gets the call on that.
I would appreciate that.
VDOT is notorious for running their bush hogs and leaving that in the action.
Well, I know we can't fly, sometimes by leaving a little trail, so, but, somewhere there's got to be an answer to how much is enough. Okay.
That's,
Yes. We know there's a loss on that.
there's state law on that tracking the highway. Same as if a truck pulls mud onto the highway and tracks the road. Whatever you put in the highway's got to come back out. District 5?
I don't have it.
Don't have anything. Is there a need for closed session?
No, sir.
Okay.
No need for a continued meeting?
No, sir.
Okay, then you can adjourn.
All right.
Move to adjourn, Mr. Chairman.
Have a motion. Yeah, you got a motion.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Thank you all for coming. It's nice to see so many people here.